So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do? And how did you hear about Girls Right Now?
I am from California girl originally, born there, but I'm from a small town in the Pacific Northwest called Longview, Washington. And I used to be a musical theater actor, but changed my career after I had spent enough time auditioning and not auditioning, let's say, as arduously as I ought to have been doing, and has been spending a lot of time in the restaurant business. And then when my restaurant that I was working at, called Marked, got knocked down with bulldozers, I wrote my first novel because I had some time on my hands. So I accidentally, I think it's fair to say, became a writer. Although I had always loved writing, and I had written since I was a young child, and I had done it in college as well. But I never thought I'd make a career out of it, and I'm just very lucky. So the Girls Right Now organization, I had actually heard about through the identical restaurant that got knocked down and then rebuilt, and then I was hanging out with a bartender friend of mine, and he was engaged to one of the mentors this is a couple of years ago, and I looked at the application process. It was really arduous and it seemed like a really involved program. I couldn't do it that year, but it was in the back of my mind. And it's funny to me that the same restaurant is like sort of a linchpin operation here for my writing career and for Girls Right Now. But I then later on applied, and this year I'm a mentor for the first time, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Sounds great. And what about you, Karilis? Tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do right now? And how did you hear about Girls Right Now?
I'm from Washington Heights, uptown. Yeah. What I do? Okay. What I do right now? Like, I go home and I read a lot of books. I devour books technically. Ever since I think 6th grade, I started with the Twilight Saga, and then I fell in love with books. So. Yeah, it was in 5th grade that I started writing, actually, because one of my teachers, she put me in this competition. I forgot what it was called, but it was this competition about you put poetry and writing, and you get awards for it. So technically, in the summer, I actually got this letter saying that they actually published it in the books of Bullards, I think. So then I was like, oh, I like that. I like the feeling I got from that. So I continued writing, and actually my 2 best friends, Zava and Brittany, they actually helped me out with the stories. They actually typed it with me and everything, because I just love to write in books, like in my notebooks, and that's it. I heard about Girls Right Now actually from one of my best friends. She heard it from one of the teachers in the school called Baldwin, and she took me to him, and he gave me the application and everything. I was like, why not just try it? Because I'm actually bored at home doing nothing. So I tried it, and I actually ended up getting it in. I didn't know that would happen, but I did.
Oh, that's good.
I'm glad.
Me too. So, how and when did you first learn that you were a writer? So, whoever wants to answer the question first, feel free.
I don't know. I think I had a little brother growing up. He's 3 years younger than me. His name's John, and I used to spend my leisure hours creating plays and sketches, skits, etc., starring him, and I would write them, and then I would force him to enact these dramas. I would be the director. For instance, I loved the Narnia books, so at one point I put together a play based on the Narnia books, and he was to be Mr. Tumnus, and the fawn, of course, and so I put him in his just little khaki pants, and then I glued cotton balls all over his chest, which was an excellent special effect. I don't really remember how we got them off, but yeah, I had kind of been doing it since I can remember, I guess, but I didn't consider myself to be a writer. I just considered myself to love stories, and before I was a writer, I was an actor, and that was also about storytelling, and so I think that I've basically just always loved storytelling, no matter what the medium you're talking about. Like, that has been a passion for me since before I can remember.
So what about you, Karilis? How and when did you find out that you were a writer, if you did at all?
I started writing, I remember, since 3rd grade. So I made this little story called Girls Next Door. I look back and it's very cheesy. It is. I consider myself a writer in 5th grade because that's when I actually like realized I could be a writer. I'm like, that's what I want to be. I'm like, that's it. I want to be that, and that's all.
Was there anything in 5th grade that really motivated you or led you to that realization?
Yeah, the competition my teacher put me in. She made me realize it. I'm like, yeah, I like this.
And so this question is for you. I was wondering, this is your first year mentoring. So I wanted to know, have you ever had a mentor before? And if so, what was your experience like?
Having a mentor or being?
Or have you ever had one?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, well, at the earliest stages, my parents read to me since I was very, very small. So they're absolutely mentors in the reading sense. I mean, they really introduced me to books and to storytelling. But when I was in high school, I had an English teacher by the name of Jim Lamons, and he was not only, is still to this day, an avid microbrew enthusiast and mountain bike rider and all kinds of cool things, but he took high school students and taught them how to self-edit. Not only how to write, but how to self-edit. We had for our advanced placement English class senior year, he called it 5 Easy Pieces with a wicked smile on his face, and there were no due dates save for the one at the end of the semester. All we had to do was to create 5 easy pieces, and then they weren't finished until he said they were done. So we would write each of these 5 pieces, and he would remind us of, you should be about here, you should be about here, but he was never satisfied with one before we'd done at least 7 drafts of it, I think. And even then you might not get an A on this paper. It might still be a B-level story that you just fixed to the point that it's good but not great. And he taught us systems of how to read things out loud and cut 10% and get rid of passive voice and to just make yourself turn 30 adjectives in your piece into better ones than they are now, and just exercises that would enable you to be critical about your own work. And I dedicated my first novel to him because he taught me how to do that. And I did 7 drafts of my first novel before I showed it to anyone, and then it ended up with Simon & Schuster. So I was very, very grateful to him as a mentor.
So what has your experience been like as a mentor with girls right now?
That has been awesome. Well, because we get to actually spend time together, which is it's a way different experience than I've ever had with mentoring, because Karilis and I, we live 3 blocks apart. So not only are we talking on Instagram and Twitter and the Tumblr and the other things that the youth do, right? But we're also, we're in the same neighborhood and we have the same interests, and that's great because I've been a mentor before with Mystery Writers of America, but that was all a blind thing where it was like a blind submission and then you do a critique. But this is completely different. This is having a friend in your neighborhood who you get to talk to about writing, which is a lot more fun, I think.
That sounds great. So and I'm assuming your favorite thing about mentoring, or is there anything else that you enjoy about mentoring?
I enjoy so far everything about mentoring, particularly the fact that I didn't realize first of all, I write genre fiction. She writes genre fiction as well. And I was terrified that I was going to be blessed at Girls Right Now with a brilliant poet, and I would have no notes for this person. And I was going to look at the poem and say, I don't know how to tell you how to fix anything about this, and I can't stop crying, it's so beautiful. And I was going to be a completely just useless mentor in every way. That didn't end up happening. We shared, similar interests in terms of writing itself and fiction, and she's also a unicorn, and I didn't know she was going to be a unicorn, but she is. And I like unicorns a lot, they're magical animals.
I bet they do.
Yeah.
So I guess jumping back to that point, I understand that you write fan fiction, and Karilis, you're interested in magical realism. So I was wondering if, I guess as a mentor and mentee here, have you ever influenced each other to take creative risks? And what's that relationship like, both being genre fiction writers?
write fan fiction and I write historical thrillers. So in the fan fiction sense, I write Sherlock Holmes pastiches, and that is absolutely fan fiction. And I also write my own original characters in another series that's set in early New York. But the genre fiction crossover is definitely something that we've been able to have conversations with. I mean, I think, am I right in saying that, like, you had been writing magic realism for a while, and I was like, this is what you write.
Forever. As far as I remember.
So do you remember when like we had this pair meeting where I said, look, this is the Wikipedia entry, this is the genre you write in, and she's like,
I didn't even know it existed. I didn't.
It was great. I'm like, see, look, you come from a long line of magical realism folk, and she's like, that was a thing that I did. I mean, like, that's the way my stories happen.
So what's it like for you, Karilis, like being able to have that sort of feedback and not knowing, you know, that there is a whole genre of magical realism before when you started writing? I mean, what's it like to have another writer who sort of knows what you're writing about?
It's awesome. Like, she actually, as much as it hurts, she tells me that I have to say this out, or I have to add this, what do they mean, what she's saying, and all that. That's good, actually, because I didn't really have a mentor, actually. It was just like my principal in middle school. He used to go over it and he used to read it. Oh, it's cute. He used to print it and then give it out to some people around the school. Like, that's as far as I will go until girls right now, actually.
And do you feel like you can take more risks, creative risks, in trying new genres or exploring more with your genre now that you have a mentor to help you?
Yeah, of course. And I have somebody to laugh about it with. Really.
It's very important.
Yeah.
So, describe a typical pair session from start to finish. Maybe, Karilis, you can explain what's it like with Lyndsay, I mean, in your pair sessions from start to finish.
Okay. Sorry, we come in, we sit down, say hi to each other. She asks me, you want something to eat? I always say no.
Because I'm always hungry.
It's that I always eat before I leave home. Yeah, so we sit down, we start talking about some random stuff that's been happening lately, because we text each other, and then she loves to be with that. And then she's the only one who pulls out the work that we have to do, because I run off. And so we start doing the work, and once we're done with that, we start talking all over again. And then right before we leave, she tells me, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that, and then we leave. It's like back and forth.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
And what's it like for you? I mean, a typical pair session from your point of view.
It's great. It's great. We used to go to this cute coffee shop because, you know, I had this sort of like, I don't know, idea in my head that like, well, okay, well, we're working on writing stuff. We're supposed to be in some sort of, you know, like, it's hard for us in our neighborhood a little bit in Washington Heights to like, so our library, you know, like just south of my house, right?
Yeah.
That library would have been a great place for us to meet and go over stuff, but unfortunately, due to budget cuts, just throwing that out there, that library is not open right now. So it would take us probably, you know, each 20 minutes to get to another one. So we were meeting in a cute coffee shop for a while. And then I figured out that Jimbo's Hamburger Palace was across the street during like, what, a snowstorm?
Yeah.
We were like, no coffee shop. Go to
10 blocks away.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah, that was an arduous trek. So we were like, okay, let's go to Jimbo's Hamburger Palace from here on out. So that's what we do now. I order a green tea. She says she's not hungry. And we go through, we start by, you know, like catching up on what was happening well, actually, no. We don't have to catch up on what's happening during the week because we already know from the internets and the telephones. But we talk about, you know, that stuff that's going on, what she's doing in school, and then we get to whatever projects are coming up for girls right now, because I've never been a mentor before, so I have to look at the dates to make sure I don't screw up that one. So yes, I whip out the folder.
Yeah, she does.
I do. And then we look at the actual things we have to do. And then we, when we're done, we stop, and then we just gap again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we look at pictures of our pets. Yeah,
And
and talk
your
about
pets? What? Both of you have pets? What's their names?
He's a Maltese. His name is Terry.
Okay.
He's a white Maltese. He's very, very good looking. I have 2 cats. Their names are Grendel and Prufrock.
Prufrock.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome name too. Okay. And let's see. The vampire story you co-wrote for tonight's chapters reading is awesome. And can you tell us a little bit about what inspired the piece?
Yes. So we'd been doing good work, but you remember how there were all those due dates at the beginning of the semester?
Yeah.
So there's all the projects that are due right at the beginning with the application for the Scholastic, et cetera, which was awesome. But you know, at the beginning we were accomplishments. That was what we were. It was eye on the prize. And then it got to be more like winter, and we were like, well, let's maybe do something kind of fun coming up for a pair session. And I asked her, and there's a Spanish history museum that is beautiful, and no one knows it's there. That is at Baruchio College, actually, and it's right down the street from where we both live. So I thought this would actually be closer than the coffee shop we used to try to meet at if we wanted to go to it. So she met me there, and yeah, you take it from there.
Yeah, so we went in, and memory came back to me, like I've been here before, I don't really remember well. It turns out I was when I was younger. I only went once. And so we went around the whole first floor, actually, and when we went to this big room, there was pictures around the whole wall, surrounding the wall, and they're huge. And there was one that caught our eye, was of the people with those pointy hats.
Yeah, the penitents on the road to Seville.
Exactly. We saw those and we liked it, that one actually. So we were like, we'll keep that in mind. So we continued going around, and then we got to the main door again. Then we went up the stairs, which were really awesome. We said we should go with a train that stairs. So
you need a ball gown for
for
the stairs.
Yeah. We went upstairs and we went walking around talking about the paintings. She actually knew most about paintings. I knew nothing, actually.
I only know about paintings because my husband's a painter. It's like osmosis.
Yeah, I know nothing. She was actually teaching me. And so we went around, we went back down, and we went back to that room actually, and we saw the painting again. So she took a picture of it actually. And then we would think about it, what story would come out of it. So I remember we were in the conversation, and then I came out and they were saying that they should be vampire hunters by night, but by day they're like prayers and all that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It's a mural by Sorolla, Joaquim Sorolla, and it's in a room of amazing murals in the Spanish History Museum, and it's the penitents on the road to Sevilla, and with these giant conical hoods and stuff. But yes, they're praying for their village, so
yeah,
we figured, of course, they're also vampire hunters.
Because you never know who's underneath anyway.
It's like a disguise. Yeah.
It sounds good. And
We're stoked.
how did you guys prepare for today's reading? I mean, were there any tips that you might give in terms of preparation?
We just practice mostly.
Yeah.
Went over and practicing over again.
Yeah.
It was really hard for us to get our piece down to size because we wrote about, more than twice as much as we could read today. And so what happened was we practiced a lot because we were trying to get it down, to like, we were trying to cut things so that it would be under 4 minutes, because once this vampire fiction thing took off, I mean, hey man.
Continue.
So what happened was we're, like way over time, and what we had to do was just reduce, right? So that ended up being a lot of practicing, sometimes with me eating a cheeseburger at the same time, sometimes without at the Hamburger Palace, just reading it out loud over and over again. And I really think repetition is the important part, right? I mean, then you don't stumble over the words as much, and that's the ticket. Yeah. Just get familiar with it, get comfortable, and if you're reading it out loud to each other, then you're reading it out loud to someone in the first place. That's the huge first step, like, as opposed to just looking at it cold.
So, Carlos, is this the first time that you're ever sharing a piece in public or reading it in public?
In public, yeah. First time. I've been talking about it, I think all month. Actually, you know, first time, come on. You want everybody to come.
Are you excited?
Yeah. Yo.
So how is, I mean, obviously you're excited, and I mean, in terms of how do you feel? I mean, it seems like you want everyone to be there to hear you. So do you have any, I guess, ways of controlling the nerves or anything that you tell yourself to get up there and read?
Well, then once I get through with it, tonight I'm gonna be like, I did it. Get myself out of the back, eat some zebra cakes, some ice cream, you know, surprise myself it. See a movie.
Unicorns don't get nerves.
How do you know that?
I just figured.
They do.
They do?
They do.
Deep down? All right. I've never asked one before. I didn't know.
Well, now you know.
No, I didn't.
So is it reassuring to read together as a pair?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were always planning on doing that, though, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to go alone.
No, from the get-go, I mean, like, we always got along really well. But at the beginning, in the big group meetings, you know, right? Like, it's hard to start, you know, raising your hand and saying, I want to share this piece that I just wrote seconds ago, right? I mean, that's challenging, that's intimidating, and especially I mean, like, Karilis, she's a sophomore. There's not going to have been all that many opportunities for her to do that, and at the very beginning, you know, like, it's different talking to one person and, you know, showing your stuff to one person than it is raising your hand and saying, hey, entire room, I wrote this 5 seconds ago. Haven't really had time to reflect on it, would you like to hear it? But you know, like, you shared something that you wrote last meeting.
Did I?
Yeah, it was like the first time you did, I think.
I don't remember well.
Well, you did. You did. And it was great. It was awesome. Everybody was into it. During that last workshop.
Oh,
The travel
yeah.
day. Oh.
Yeah. There was this one line that I liked the most, and I said it.
Yeah?
I remember.
She was all, I have a line I'd like to. See?
Took a lot.
Right.
Courage. I like really drawing attention.
Right. But,
So I guess if there's anything else that you'd like to add, I have a final question. So feel free, whoever wants to go first. As women writers, what is the one most important bit of advice you have to offer for your fellow women writers today? Particularly the young women writers who are just trying to make it in their careers.
well, I was just recently out at a thing in Connecticut doing a class about Sherlock Holmes, or not a class, but like a adult learning talk. And there was a gentleman who asked me during the break. He said, how does it affect your writing? How does it affect, you know, your sales that you're a woman? And I said, that's a really interesting question. Books are marketed in, you know, different ways, etc. And that's a long conversation. And he said, no. He kind of cut me off. He's like, no, what I mean is you have a first-person male narrator who's a policeman, and I picked your book up and I read, you know, the first few sentences, and then you're a girl. I mean, what am I supposed to make of that? So I said, I said several things to him, but I think the point we should kind of draw from this is that unless you think that Lewis Carroll, who wrote Alice in Wonderland, ought to have written Alice in Wonderland as if it was about an adult male as opposed to Alice, and it's kind of a classic. I think I always tell women writers that if you want to write poetry, then write poetry, and if you want to write from a man's perspective, write from a man's perspective. If you want to write from a vampire's perspective, do that. I used to think that I had to write what I knew, and that I had to write things that were all sort of reflective of memoir and my own personal experience, and I would just say that if that's what you want to write, then you should write that. You should write personal essays and get really in there and get gritty and get deep. But if instead what you want to write is create an entire new world like J.R.R. Tolkien did, or like, you know, like J.K. Rowling did more recently, then I think that you should not limit yourself to any particular genre because you think that that's what women are supposed to be writing. I think that you should know that you can write whatever you want. And it's all about your own imagination. And if you have the imagination to access that world, then you have the ability to put it on paper for other people to share it with you.
Sounds good. And do you have any advice as a teen, sophomore in high school, and you're also in Girls Right Now program? Do you have any advice that you may even give to a friend or another, some girl that wants to get into writing?
I would tell her just take a paper, notebook, whatever, take a pencil and just start writing. But everything that you think you know, like how she said, or just let your mind go. Just let it flow. Don't worry about it. Just let it flow. And then in the end, you read over it, you're like, you're good. You're good.
You don't even pay attention to the laws of physics in your story.
Oh,
People fly.
yeah. People fly. Everything.
Yeah.
It's unicorns.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So anyways, I wish you all both very much luck today, and thank you for taking the time to be interviewed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was our pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did awesome.
Thank you so much.